Hi guys, it's Oz here again. I'm back in the conservatory. It's a bit warm, so I'm a little bit sweaty. I do apologise, but it's a lovely sunny day, and I thought it would be nice to expand on something I mentioned in one of the earlier videos. When I took the camera down to Ropley, and we did some videoing in the churchyard there and then across at Medstead, I mentioned that I had another theory that I was working on as to why it was proving very difficult to track down any concrete evidence for who Goerge Silver actually was, and why it was that certain things were there in the historical record, but we weren't able to back them up with the supporting evidence that you would normally be able to get. And I'm not suggesting that this is something I believe wholeheartedly, but it's an idea that I've considered, and it's certainly worth discussing, so I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts on the subject. And the basic idea is that Goerge Silver was Jewish. I don't know for sure whether he was or not, but there are a number of things that would seem to suggest that that might be the case. Firstly, the name Silver. Jewish surnames, at least within England, are often connected to precious metals, to any form of money production or precious metal production. And historically, that's something that's been the case for years. Check it out. Look at the etymology of names, and you'll see that that's often the case. So the name is the first clue, but it's not exclusively a Jewish name. So it's perfectly feasible that if it were just that, it wouldn't be a problem at all. Now, during the Elizabethan period and before, anti-Semitism was completely rife within the United Kingdom, within Great Britain, and an awful lot of Jews effectively disguised and hid their Jewish heritage and lived as Protestants in the Elizabethan period and Catholics earlier on in order to try and fit in. But there are clues that you can find that show that they are in actual fact Jewish. The first is the name Goerge Silver. Now, we've discussed the surname, but the first name, George, is very interesting, because if you look in the parish records of Ropley, there are Silvers, but there is no Goerge Silver. What there is a Gethro Silver, or Jethro, but it's spelt with a G and not a J, which at the time would imply that it was pronounced Gethro. And if you look up Gethro as a first name, it's a Hebrew name. Now, it's perfectly feasible that George was given the name Gethro and anglicised it to George. Now, the downside to that potential bit of the theory is that we know that he was called Gethro Silver, or there was a Gethro Silver, because he was baptised. And obviously, if somebody was an Orthodox Jew, they're not going to be baptised into the Protestant Church. But if the family was attempting to move away from their Jewish heritage and possibly become more anglicised and live as a Protestant family openly, then it's possible that they may have been given a rare name with some Hebrew connotations that was later anglicised for common usage. The name Tobias, or Toby, George's brother, also has some Hebrew connotations to it and some Hebrew origins, so that's another one that makes you think possibly. Now, the other thing that's quite interesting is that Jews weren't allowed to hold property. So it's perfectly feasible that a rich Jewish family with good connections in the world of the law, and also connections to other families within the gentry and the nobility, may well have been renting large properties or a large estate from a major landowner. So it's perfectly feasible that they may have been living in and paying the Bishop of Winchester for the right to live in Ropley, which is why when Clarenceau visited and carried out the visitations of Hampshire that I've discussed previously, we've got the family of Silver living in Ropley, but there's no record in the Bishop of Winchester's historical archive that the Silvers were ever holders of that manor. So again, that's perfectly feasible. Now also, round about the time that Elizabeth died and James came down, and there was various problems with religion in the UK, and that's putting it somewhat mildly. The Silvers effectively disappeared, and we think they moved over to America, and that would fit. So there's a lot of circumstantial evidence. There's certainly no proof, but it's certainly something worth considering. It explains why we don't have any records of them owning property. It explains why they have the name Silver. It explains why we've got the record of people being baptised with Hebrew names, but no record of those people then existing. And we've got people that exist with very traditional English names, but we've got no record of their baptism. So again, yeah, it's worth thinking about. Let me know what you think. Do you think George may have been Jewish? Is it something that you've come across? Have you thought about it yourself? If you've looked into the history of the Silvers, let me know what you think. It's certainly an interesting subject. Anyway, I'll shut up now, so it's been nice to talk to you. Check out the links down below. My websites, the Patreon link, they're all there. I really appreciate it if you can have a look. It really helps me to make longer, better quality videos and more of them. So, thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you soon.